we going?
I call the meeting to order for the July 11th regular City Council meeting. Madam Clerk?
The record will reflect that all members of council are present.
Wonderful. Now is the time for the invocation by Pastor Drew Smithson from the Orange County First Assembly of God, Santa Ana.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Lord Jesus, we come to you today, and we ask that you give these great men and women, our leaders, what you gave the men of Issachar and ancient Israel. Those men, you gave them an understanding of the times in which they lived and what they should do exactly to take care of the problems they faced. So, Lord, I ask today that you would give that wisdom to our leaders. You also would give them the grace, the humility, and the love of our Lord Jesus Christ to handle any of these difficulties and these challenging times. Also, that you would bless them and bless their families, and you would bless all the other folks that have come to join us tonight. We ask this in your mighty name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to our amazing country. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Excellent. We'll now move on to a presentation from the Friends of the Library. They'll be presenting us with a check. These are my favorite things to do. I love the big checks. They're worth more. Thanks. Let's have the president, Pam Crook, say a couple words.
Thank you for the introduction. It's my pleasure to introduce Pam Cook, the president of the Friends of the Library.
Excellent.
Crook.
Yeah.
We couldn't raise this amount of money without the support of the library and Melissa. So I want to thank them. But also, we're an all-volunteer organization. So I want to thank all of our 80-plus volunteers for the hard work they put in, our board members for going above and beyond all the time, especially even during the pandemic. And it's our pleasure to present this to the library today.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so very much. Do you want to do a picture? Yeah, let's go up and do a picture.
Yeah.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Notice to the public.
Not that easy. The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items.
Now moving on to council announcements or reports and requests for A1. Councilmember Kleinman, do you have any announcements or reports?
Sure. Let's see. I attended the Police Foundation event at Sherman Gardens where our resident comedian, Chief Cartwright, was the keynote speaker. The mayor, staff, and I had a productive call with no less than, a dozen FAA representatives, where we learned that our two-turn departure procedure that follows the lines of the Back Bay has finally been given the green light for carriers to be able to fly out of JWA. And on that note, I want to remind everyone that we have an aviation committee meeting coming up this Monday, the 17th at 5 p.m. in the community room. I also attended the SCAG Regional Council and CEHD committee meetings. I had an opportunity to speak at the OASIS General Membership meeting. And along with all my colleagues, I attended the promotion and swearing-in ceremony for the many great men and women of our police department. Thank you.
Councilmember Stapleton.
You ditto to a lot of those things. I also attended the Newport Beach Police Foundation, terrific event, meeting the chief for all the residents that were there, and just kudos to the Newport Beach Police Foundation for all the work they do. Also to our city staff, leadership, 4th of July, my opinion, home run, well prepared, safe. Congrats to our Newport Beach Police Department, our fire department, our lifeguards, all they did. I heard there was a lot of safeties on the 4th of July and our lifeguards, so they did a terrific job. And to city staff and our Parks Department with the parades and everything, those were well attended as well. I attended the 9th annual Ben Carlson Scholarship Dinner, so congratulations to that entire organization for continuing the legacy of Ben Carlson, a hero in our community, and 9th annual event raising a lot of money and awareness for all that they do. And their scholarship winners was just the highlight of the night for sure. Continuing with that. I also attended the Newport Beach Police Department promotion, and I thought the highlight of that for me was certainly seeing all the families, especially the little kids who were in attendance. So that is always a fun thing. I also was able to tour with Councilwoman Grant and Kleinman, the CR&R materials and recovery facility in Stanton yesterday. So that was a great education. And I'm also looking forward to hearing in a little bit about the mac and cheese face-off this Friday. So I'll save that to Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, but I can't wait to see that.
Councilmember Grant.
Also ditto to a lot of that, so I won't review. I had an opportunity this past couple weeks to go out to Lake Forest. Their city council put on a homeless resources information night, and it was pretty eye-opening to see how other cities are managing their resources, and felt really good about a lot of the progress that we've made in our city in comparison, although all cities in the county are really working hard, is the takeaway from that. Also supported Oasis Wine and Cheese Night, which was very fun to see the social events that are hosted by our great Oasis staff. They always do a good job in bringing together that community and supporting the seniors in our community. 4th of July was definitely a home run here in Newport Beach. The Peninsula Parade. I want to give a shout out to Councilmember Wygand for absolutely taking the lead on keeping the Dover Shores parade operational. It kind of faltered a little bit this year. He took up the helm, and it was astounding. There were thousands and thousands of people there. I don't know what the final count is. Maybe Eric's going to tell us, but it was amazing to see the Dover Shores community come out, kids on bikes and people in, older people, young people. It was really an incredible event. But also a shout out to our recreation staff. The Peninsula Parade is always fun and a great time, and that was very well executed. Want to give a thank you to our longtime resident and Newport Beach Police Department supporter, Dottie McDonald. She's sort of a staple around here, and she really went all out in coordinating community donations of almost $25,000 in gift cards that she donated to our police department from local restaurants, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, Chipotle, and Sergeant Pepperoni's. All the officers got $50 gift cards or more, and it's an astounding effort by one 90-year-old lady, so thank you, Dottie. And then finally, I also was very impressed with our trash provider, CR&R, yesterday. The three of us went out and saw the clean materials recovery facility in Stanton, and it was eye-opening, absolutely incredible to see how much we repurpose our trash and really how much more we can accomplish. And CR&R is working as a really good partner with us to make that happen. So thank you globally.
Councilmember Reagan.
Yes, thank you, Councilmember Grant, for commenting on the parade. But yeah, I did write up a few things. I have two events that I wanted to kind of highlight that I participated in. But the Mariners 4th of July Bike Parade was a huge success. I think at least several thousand people were there pedaling, walking, participating, standing on the sides, and decorating up in their best Americana for the day. But thank you to Councilmember Grant and Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill for attending. And then special thanks to Heather Maddock, Christina Radditt, Dave Paglia, and Ben Treviso. They helped organize the community. There was 1,000 doorknob hangers that were walked, and they helped out significantly getting that out. They created an Instagram page. And then thank you to some of our staff, Stephen Ramirez, Stephen Nunez. They helped set up and take down the barricades on the street. Molly Patience helped out with the logistics and communications. And two of our motor officers, Varela and Hamilton, they helped lead the procession. So it was a big effort, and I'm glad that we were able to do something because at one point nothing was going to be done. So that was nice by having a lot of folks come together for that. And then on Saturday, July 8th, this last Saturday, I participated in the 27th running of the Gray Lundy Ironman. And this is an annual race dedicated in the memory of Gray Lundy, who suffered from a cardiac arrest while warming up for a water polo match during his freshman year at Newport Harbor High School. When he was a junior lifeguard, Gray's favorite event was the Ironman. And this was created by Gray's family. And the Ironman starts at Tower 74 by the river jetties. Participants run down to the Newport Pier, swim out to Buddy's Buoy, come back to shore, and swim back to the buoy a second time. The course continues with a run down to Balboa Pier, where you swim the Reenie's Buoy twice, followed by a run to the G Street Lifeguard Tower and returning back to the Junior Lifeguards headquarters. The event is optional for junior lifeguards, but many are joined by their parents. This year was the biggest showing to date with over 175 participants and even more spectators. It was a great event, and I'm looking forward to beating my time next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Avery.
Yeah, I decided to go all in on my fourth, and it started with hanging out with the denizens of Lido Isle for their 4th of July parade, which is not as well known as some others. But what occurs there is that the garages of Lido Isle get emptied out, and there's some spectacular automobiles that, going around, Rolls Royces and things like that. There was a float that was basically about 9 women, at a bar. So just moving along down the street, and that was spectacular. And a great flaming red roadster. Those are my favorites. And just you saw, the big thing was, of course, what a community it is there. It's just like all of our islands. Everybody knows everybody. So it was really fun to see. And having spent part of my teen years living on Lido Island with my parents, I was right across from Villa Wazirs, where I spent some good years. And I also, Julie and I went out to the Castaways Bluffs to watch the fireworks, and we could see from the cliffs there by the houses there facing east, there were at least 6 different fireworks displays, starting with Big Canyon and rolling all the way across to the Balboa Pier. And that crowd was huge. There was at least 1,000 people, maybe more. It just all along the fence line there, those of you that have ridden out there or jogged, it was packed. And that was great to see, everybody having a good time. And my neighborhood on Holly Lane, so 1 block street, was very quiet. But right across Tustin from where I live is Costa Mesa. And there's a street there across from me that is absolute chaos during the 4th of July with quote-unquote safe and sane fireworks going on. And then it was capped off by, I think it was an M80 that went off in my neighborhood at 2 in the morning. I was furious until I remembered, when I was about 14, I would do that and thought it was hilarious. So, and then yesterday, I did my first regatta with the American Legion Yacht Club, and that was really a lot of fun. And then returning to the Legion and burning a few burgers, as they say, and having a glass of wine or a glass of beer. And really a nice, great crowd. The place was full. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
One of the nice things about going almost last is a lot of this has been discussed, so I'll just cover things I don't think were covered. The Friends of Oasis, Councilmember Kleiman spoke, and I was able to swear in the new board for the Friends of Oasis this past week. And then I took my son this past weekend to the Caltech Kirchhoff Marine Laboratory. They had they were teaming up with the Rotary International, the local club, and they had folks decorating styrofoam cups that they're actually going to attach to a submarine that they're going to be taking down, and then it'll shrink down because of the pressure. So kids were able to learn a lot about exploration, which was a lot of fun. So I appreciated that. And then, as Councilmember Stapleton mentioned, the Make-A-Wish Orange County chapter, they're going to be hosting a fundraiser on Friday at Cappy's at 9:30. The mayor and I are going to be competing against each other for who can eat the most amount of mac and cheese in 5 minutes. I can tell you already, we've had loved ones reaching out to us asking us not to do this, and so this should be interesting. Anyway, I'm going to win. See ya. Thanks.
Perfect. Madam Clerk, please read the notice regarding public comments on consent calendar.
This is the time in which council members may pull items from the consent calendar for discussion. Those are items 1 through 12. Public comments are also invited on consent calendar items. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record. If any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each item for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine, will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and are removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Councilmember Kleiman, do you have any items to pull from the consent calendar or conflicts to announce?
No.
Councilmember Stapleton?
I have none, but I would just be remiss if I didn't say something. As the chair of the Water Quality Committee, I'm excited and eager to get moving forward with the trash interceptor, and happy that's hopefully moving forward.
Councilmember Grant?
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember Weigand?
None.
Councilmember Avery?
I have none.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I would just note, when I make the motion, I'm going to make a motion to amend the minutes slightly. In the public comments, we had someone come and I had responded to her comments. One of the things it says in the minutes is that during my discussion, it said that council will not entertain opposition to references to Ben Carlson. We will entertain opposition to anything during public comment. So I think what I had actually said was that that this council will not allow opposition to his heroic acts to go unchallenged is perhaps the better approach. So I'm going to make that motion, but I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, and I have none.
All right. With the amendments to the minutes, as I mentioned, did we have any, Madam Clerk, did we have any other amendments to the minutes? Okay, just those. With those,
Sorry, there is some from Councilmember Kleiman and then one from.
Got it. Okay, with those amendments and the ones that I just referenced, I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Wonderful. We have the motion. Do we have a second? Seconded by Councilmember Avery, because Lauren was late. Let's move out to public comments on consent calendar items. Public comments on consent calendar, items 1 through 12. Please come on up.
Randall English, past president of the Newport Bay Conservancy. I'm here to also speak of excitement on approval of the trash interceptor. I understand there's been a lot of time and energy spent re-engineering, and as an environmental partner and an education partner long-term with the city, the Conservancy really supports this, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on consent calendar?
Honorable Mayor Blum and members of the City Council, my name is Bill Kenny, and I'm here on behalf of the Newport Harbor Foundation. I'll refrain from any exhaustive remarks. Just know that we are in full support of the San Diego Creek trash interceptor. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any other comments on consent calendar? Excellent. All right. Seeing none. We have any additional comments up here? Seeing none, let's take a vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the ordinance title for item 3, ordinance 2023-11, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach, amending chapter 10.8 to prohibit interference with public access, adding chapter 10.14, prohibiting unpermitted structures on public property, and amending section 11.4.7D to prohibit certain conduct in public parks, park facilities, and at public beaches. The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
Excellent. Let's move on to public comments on non-agenda items. Now would be the time to come up if you want to talk about something that's not on tonight's agenda. Head on up.
Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Chase Wickersham. I'm a Vietnam combat veteran. I've been a homeowner in Corona del Mar for 35 years and a member of the American Legion. I'm here tonight because I want to publicly update you a little bit on what's going on at the American Legion and announce that our 100th anniversary with Newport Beach will be celebrated on July 4th of 2024 next year. And we're real excited about that. Post 291 basically has 4,000 plus veteran members today as Legionnaires. We're the second largest in the country, and about 7,000 total members in all 4 of our programs. And more than 1,000 of our member families live in Newport Beach. The post was founded by a small group of World War I veterans in 1924. The city offered the post our current location on 15th Street in 1939 with a lease on the tidelands for the eventual marina. In 1979, a devastating fire destroyed the building. We were able, with the help of the local community and insurance, to rebuild it in 1980. Newport Beach Historical Society designated the Legion Great Hall as an historical site on May 18th of 1995. We've just completed, in the past few months, the first major remodel of the building since that fire. The Great Hall has a new look with exposed beams, new lighting, new sound system. The hall is now air-conditioned for the first time since it was built in the 50s. The front office has new furniture and paint, and most important, new equipment has been installed in the kitchen, increasing capacity by 30%. The city has also just completed a major project reinforcing the marina seawall, which we're really excited to have finally finished. Why is Post 291 important to Newport Beach? The Post has become an important local charity over the past 100 years, supporting our local veterans and the community while promoting Americanism and patriotism. 291 gives all Orange County veterans, particularly our low-income veterans, access to the amenities of our beautiful harbor. Without the American Legion, many of our veterans in Orange County could not afford to bring their families to Newport for dinner on our patio overlooking the harbor. Post 291 also provides a low-cost venue for events, and it is always available to the general public. The Post offers many public service programs, including the Veteran Emergency Assistance Fund, which is money that we raise to help veterans that need financial assistance, and we provide motel vouchers to get homeless veterans off the street immediately. Today, I'd like to ask the council for support for our 100th anniversary celebration next year. I want the city of Newport Beach to be a partner with us in putting together this celebration. I want to thank you for supporting our local veterans, and I hope you'll continue to help us keep patriotism alive in Newport Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers, non-agenda items? Seeing none, let's move into the public hearing. In regards to agenda item 13, I have a conflict based on interest in a personal residence and will be recusing myself.
All right. I think we've discussed this in a prior meeting, but if we could do a brief presentation, that'd be great.
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill. So with me is Jocelyn Perez, Associate Planner. So if we can go ahead and go to the slide. So the amendment is a simple ordinance. What the amendment to the PC text, which is your zoning, is to allow recreational use to the, go back one, to the OCTA Center. And if we go forward one slide, it's the allowed uses there are listed, which is your transit facility and your public library signage, and in that red is the ordinance, which is just to allow a recreational use. Whether the city does a project over there in that parking lot or not, that's yet to be determined, but we just want to get that zoning in place that there's a future ability to add some recreational uses. And happy to answer questions.
All right, do we have any questions or discussion from? All right, seeing none, we'll open for public comment on this item. All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back. Do I have a motion? Moved by Councilmember Stapleton, seconded by Councilmember Avery. Let's go ahead and make a vote.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the ordinance title for Ordinance 2023-12, an ordinance of the City Council of City of Newport Beach approving an amendment to the Newport Village Plan Community PC 27 Development Plan to allow recreational uses within Area 1. The motion carries unanimously 6-0 with Mayor Blom recusing himself.
All right, thank you.
Now, going on to current business, item 14 are recommendations from the Ad Hoc Residential Crime and Burglary Advisory Committee. Do the staff report on this one?
We certainly do. We have our crime ad hoc chair coming forward and our police chief, Joe Cartwright.
Sorry. It's been 10 years before I've spoken before the city council, so it's been a while, so please excuse me. So again, I want to thank Mayor Bloom for appointing me as the chair of the committee, as well as facilitating the committee itself. And I want to thank my fellow committee members, Amy and Lee. Amy's present here, and I don't see Lee. Oh, Lee's in the back. As well as the staff members that assisted us, Tara, Melanie, and Justin, as well as the chief giving us the opportunity to speak to his staff about current crime trends and other policies within the department. And with that, I'll go forward with this PowerPoint that Melanie graciously put together for us. And now, there we go. Obviously, this is what the council wanted us to address, educating the public on steps that can be taken to prevent and deter residential crime, additional modification, elimination of programs, policies, and procedures, prevent and deter residential crime and burglary, the ability of nonprofit community-based programs, policies, procedures to prevent and deter residential crime and burglary, and the availability and allocation of funds for programs, policies, procedures to prevent and deter residential crime and burglary, and such as other members as directed by the City Council. Our public education recommendations include promoting existing free MVPD crime prevention programs, maintaining an updated Newport Beach HOA list to conduct neighborhood-specific outreach and education of the effectiveness of home security tools, utilizing social media platforms to conduct specific outreach and education, establishing more public workshops regarding public safety, and formalizing communication campaign, and promoting the Project 529 Garage Bicycle Registry. Concerning policies and procedure recommendations, providing resources and funding to implement a real-time crime center, expanding direct enforcement teams, programs, and funding, accelerating forensic technology investigations, purchasing, creating a drone program, conducting random audits of residential burglary cases to determine if modifications are needed to service delivery, and reviewing current traffic and camera operation and use policy. Our funding recommendations included developing private and public partnerships to equip the city with license plates reading camera systems, creating a donation program, identifying grant funding opportunities for the private sector, and identifying city savings reserves for neighborhood enhancement funds to invest in innovative technology. Thank you. And if you have any questions?
Wonderful. Thank you much for the work you guys have done up there. Let's bring it up to the council. Starting with any questions up here. Mayor Pro Tem, jump on in.
Thank you. And thank you to our members of the ad hoc. Appreciate the time that you put into it. Appreciate the field trips you took to go talk. And also appreciated the survey that you did of other agencies. I suppose it's not that surprising to find out that Newport Beach Police Department is one of the best out there, but it's good to see that. And so the question is going to be just how do we equip with more resources? First off, I know that we have an increased amount of work being done by the Newport Beach Police Foundation. I know I see some reps from the board there. I love that and I appreciate that. And having this almost certainly provides some ideas on targets for some fundraising aspects and resources. So that's helpful. And so I just want to say thanks for that. On the license plate readers, we've been working through that on the private side. No doubt we need to be working through that on the public side. So this should create a good avenue for us to have a discussion up here as well. So I would expect that to be coming back, that specific idea in a program to be coming back on a study session, and hopefully you'll be here for that as well. And then I think we mentioned it at a prior meeting, but council members Stapleton and Kleiman and I went up and saw the Beverly Hills Police Department to go check out what they were doing. It was really fascinating because they've got a bunch of drones, and interestingly enough, the way that they do it is they have a police officer, a sworn police officer on a computer, and while that person is controlling the drone, there's another person that is up on the roof because the FAA requires line of sight on the drone. So every drone they operate actually requires a sworn officer and a non-sworn officer, and so it's an interesting program to see. And I'm wondering, because it turns out their budget is enormous, and their tax base is significantly higher for a city of 23,000 people. But perhaps that's one of those things where when we have a neighboring city like Irvine, I think has this program, and I know we work with them, maybe we can expand that partnership a bit. So there are aspects of this that we'll be implementing. So I just want to say thank you, and this is helpful.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember Stapleton.
Yeah, I mean, Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill took the words out of my mouth. I would just say thank you to the residents who put time and energy into this. We're fortunate to have a city like Newport Beach and have residents who are willing to give back their time and their expertise. And like Mayor Pro Tem said, we did have the opportunity to go and tour what Beverly Hills is doing, and I think there's certainly some aspects of that, like you've talked about and you've highlighted in your report, that I look forward to continuing to do studies on and see how we can implement some of those to give our first responders all the tools and resources they need to make sure that we protect the utopia that is Newport Beach. So kudos to you guys.
Thank you.
Councilmember Kleinman.
Yeah, I'll just echo those sentiments and say thank you to the committee members for all the time invested, all the research that you did, and then bringing those recommendations to us today. I'll also say that I would like to hear more from our police department on what they would like to see and have that brought forward so that we can have that discussion, as Mayor Pro Tem O'Neill already kind of touched on.
Wonderful. We'll jump on out to public comments on this item. Any public comments on this item?
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I guess I'll be public comments. I'm a committee member. I just wanted to thank the council for the opportunity to participate in the process. It's been 30 years since I worked for a police department, so things have really changed in terms of technology, and I think I saw that in some of the agencies that I visited and some of the research that we did as a committee. I think the council can now take this report and really discuss with the police department new opportunities. It's kind of a new day in the way of technology. I mean, when you visited Beverly Hills, I think the thing that was most amazing to me when I went to Beverly Hills Police Department was it's been, I think it was 1992, I met with their retired police chief of Beverly Hills that started the whole program. I think he said his council started giving them the resources for the cameras and technology in 1992. And what you saw there today was 20 years of progress to get to the point that they're at. And so I think we are a great police department, and I think now there's an opportunity with a new chief, a lot of promotions and changes in the department to give the residents even better police service than ever before. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other public comments on this item? All right, let's bring it back up here. And I will just say really quickly, I again want to thank our police force probably more than anything. And I think sometimes these exercises are great for the public because we get to go out there and see what other agencies are doing and realize we are still at the very top of our game. And we mentioned Beverly Hills a lot, but I don't think anyone up here would want to live there. LA is not what it cracked up to be. So I want to thank our force. They're unbelievable. And, you know, we'll definitely take these recommendations to heart, dissect them, and communicate with our officers. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mm-hmm. You vote on this? Just receive.
Nothing to vote on unless there's any specific direction.
I apologize. Councilmember Wagon.
Yeah, just as a new council member, you know, how do we go about taking these recommendations from a citizens-based ad hoc? Is it kind of listen and learn, and then if we see problems, we know maybe we can come up with some additional ideas to implement based on crime statistics, seeing that, you know, maybe today we're not going to, but you know, this gives us an opportunity to have that discussion, having said, you know, oh, you know what, I'm seeing an increase in this. Councilmember Wygan wants to talk about drone programs, or, you know, we did approve in a previous council meeting a trial run for HOAs on license plate readers. So that will take a year and some time to, you know, get some data for us. So if we see that data and we say, you know what, this would be great to implement citywide a year from now, we can then come back and maybe one of us can A1 it and say we want to discuss that for future implementation citywide. Maybe the drone thing is something, we got an airport, so we probably have a little bit more restrictions than Beverly Hills does. So, you know, maybe that's something we need to do further study on. But I mean, I love a lot of these recommendations that were in here. And the chief has walked away. I don't really have any questions for him, but I think that having this knowledge at our side, we can go forward. But I didn't know if there was anything we wanted to implement tonight or talk about moving forward with. And as a new council member, it's just education for me.
Well, Mayor Blum, if we can, we could have Chief Cartwright. He could talk a little bit. A lot of the programs that were mentioned in here, we do actively participate in, and there's some of the projects and initiatives, particularly around the technology side, that we have begun work. So Chief, if you can just speak a little bit to some of the recommendations and kind of the next phases that you're going through specifically right now.
Certainly, ma'am. First off, with the public communication and Mayor and City Council, I wanted to thank the ad hoc committee as well. I'm sure it was a labor of love for them, and I appreciate the time and effort that everybody put in to researching this. As far as the public engagement goes, we have a great deal of robust programs, but their point is well taken. There's always more communication necessary. I've recently moved a sergeant into our community relations office, working out of my office basically. So we're going to be doing a big push on that, public awareness on all those categories. In terms of technology, it's not a one-size-fits-all on all these programs, so I want to conservatively and smartly approach each one of these topics, from drones to real-time. I think that we can slowly build it out into a footprint that serves Newport Beach best and expand upon that. And I think drones is part of that conversation, real-time crime center consoles as well, and other advents of technology that we can implement. But I want to do it kind of in a way that fits us best, rather than blow something huge up and then try to find a reason to use this or that. I think we can slowly approach this and make our caseload a little bit more effective. As you know, for Southern California, our department leads in terms of case closures and in solving cases by double and sometimes more than any other agency in Southern Cal. And I think the advent of some of these technologies will just speed that up and make us even more efficient and nimble.
Wonderful. Thank you, Chief. And so hopefully, I think we'll look for recommendations from the police force and they can bring them back. If there's something specific we're looking for from this council, we can certainly get staff to prepare something for us. So wonderful. Thank you very much to the committee and our police force for bringing this forward. And let's move on to item number 15. It's a request to commit $3 million in funding to the American Family Housing for the TRAVELODGE North HOMEKEY project at 1400 Bristol Street in Costa Mesa. Tara.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm joined by Lauren Wooding-Whitlinger, our real property administrator, and also in the audience this evening are Ryan Lehman and Milo Penniman from American Family Housing, the project developer. And Mayor, would you like a brief staff report on this item?
Let's do a brief staff report on this item.
So tonight, staff is recommending that the city commit $3 million in funding toward the TRAVELODGE North project located in the city of Costa Mesa. This is a permanent supportive housing project that the city of Costa Mesa staff actually came forward and asked us to be a partner in. They knew that our city had been looking for a couple of years for a site here in Newport Beach to put a permanent supportive housing project. And as of today, we have not been successful in finding an appropriate site here in our own city. So they invited us to participate and began the discussions with American Family Housing. And the developer is proposing to convert the TRAVELODGE project, and this TRAVELODGE is located at Bristol and Red Hill in Costa Mesa. Their project is to take the 120-room motel and convert it into 76 units of permanent supportive housing and 2 manager units. The project would remain affordable for 55 years, a minimum of 55 years. The developer estimates the project will cost about $45.3 million to complete, and they expect, if all the approvals go through, that they'd be finished with the project in late 2024 or early 2025. They have numerous funding sources that they're seeking. State HOMEKEY money is the bulk of the funding. They are also seeking funding from the County of Orange. Last week, the city of Costa Mesa committed to, just as we are tonight, to $4 million, contingent on several factors that I'll go over in a moment. And also City of Newport Beach, and they're looking for a private loan as well. The Newport Beach participation would be $3 million for a 55-year term. This would be a loan. And we are also seeking local preference on 12 units. That means out of the 76 units, 12 would be permanently set aside for City of Newport Beach clients. Should the council agree to commit the $3 million in funding this evening, as I mentioned, it would be contingent upon several factors. We would expect the funding to be awarded by the county and state. And we would also ask that, for sure, we'd have in writing that 12 of the units would be permanently set aside for City of Newport Beach clients. We'd have that local preference on those units for the full 55-year term. And also, there's some pre-acquisition work that has to be done that we would expect the successful completion of all of that work. And should all of this happen, staff would come back to you. This is only the first step in the process. Should all of these pieces fall into place, we would return to you with an agreement for the council to consider. That concludes the brief overview. And again, we have Lauren and the developer here should you have questions.
Wonderful. We'll bring him to the dais real quick. Councilmember Grant.
Thank you, Tara. That was a good brief presentation. I think it's a good overview, and it's an interesting project. The ad hoc committee of Mayor Blum and Councilmember Kleiman and myself worked around a lot of these issues, not necessarily permanent supportive housing, but homelessness and transition to the shelter, and then next steps after that. And one of the bottlenecks is the next step after the shelter. The reason our shelter is full and that we need more beds is because we haven't been able to connect properly with the next step of getting people out of the shelter into the permanent supportive housing. So it's encouraging from that perspective. But one of the other challenges that we have with the shelter is that we don't have a lot of ownership over what happens in the shelter with that transition. So I feel that I'm cautioning that we make sure that the amount of ownership we have over at least the 12 units, I realize that we won't be operating the permanent supportive housing, but at the outset and then even after the outset, once 12 people are placed, if there are subsequent openings that we would want to have priority with the subsequent openings for the 12. I think we just need to be very careful how we structure this so that we make sure that we get what we are looking for, which is fluidity between the shelter to whatever extent it can happen and this permanent supportive housing, since we aren't really experiencing that on a huge level now without the permanent supportive housing provided by Newport. So I know that that's part of the process, and we'll be looking at that carefully, but it's definitely something that we need to focus on. It's encouraging that this is a loan, so it's a long-term loan, but at some point these monies could be repurposed. And, again, that the devil's in the details there. I don't know exactly how that's going to be formatted, but that is encouraging. I didn't realize that was a piece of it until I read the staff report. And again, just thank you so much for the work on this, and we look forward to really, again, getting more of the details in place before we actually commit to the $3 million.
Councilmember Weigand.
Yeah, just looking at the letter from American Family Housing, attachment C 15-9, it just says the county would arrange for a local preference of 28 units within the coordinated entry system for tenants' connection to Newport Beach or Costa Mesa in exchange for the two cities' financial support. So does Costa Mesa, if we have 12, what is Costa Mesa's?
16.
16, okay. So that kind of breaks down the $4 million versus $3 million. Okay, cool. Thanks.
Councilmember Kleinman.
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to build on Councilmember Grant's comments, to say I'm generally supportive of allocating the funds. I know there's a couple of steps that have to happen before we move forward. And I just want to say I, too, am concerned that we just are sure to get exactly what we are expecting in terms of clearly delineated terms of the agreement and this local preference terminology worked out so that we're sure to get those beds and that we're not limited to just those beds and not exempted and somehow excluded from access to any remaining beds in that county's continuum of care. Those are really just my comments. Thank you.
Councilmember Avery.
Yeah, it's really expensive, but that's what every city's faced with is this expense. And we're just fortunate that we can, from everything I see, we can afford to do that, certainly alone. And I think it's incumbent upon us in this problem of people going into shelters and then having nowhere to go. And so just the first step, 12 rooms, get people into a place where it's permanent and they're able to get some support. And that's what every city should be doing. So I think it's really good that we're stepping up in this way. It's frustrating that it's so incremental and it's so relatively small, but compared to a lot of cities, our homeless population, isn't that large. Although certainly residents feel the impacts of it. So I think this is, it's another partnership basically from my standpoint, and someone else got the ball rolling, Costa Mesa. It's great. I think it's something we should be doing because it's just the solution is we can't do it with shelters alone. Got to have housing. So it's a first step, and I think we've got to work on other things like this. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
Councilmember Stapleton.
Just a quick note, the $3 million, this is general fund money, obviously. Is this money that's come through developer fees that has been allocated in theory to affordable housing?
Well, the city council originally looking at a permanent supported housing project put $1 million from general fund. I think it was surplus at the time, and then $2 additional million we were looking to anticipate from development agreements that have the affordable housing piece to it. We have at this point not received $2 million in the development agreement side, so at this point this would be general fund monies. But the thought is as the development agreement money comes in, it could be replenished back in the general fund.
Yeah, I'm just going to echo all those who have spoken already. This is certainly in need of a regional solution. I mean, we've got people that have been in our temporary shelter for 18 months to 2 years now. So, yeah, this is a much, that's it. Thank you.
Great, we're going to go on out to public comment at this point. Public comment on this item? You just come right up and make your way to the mic.
Good evening, Mayor Bloom and City Council members. My name's Helen Cameron, and I'm a member of Newport Beach Homeless Collaborative Group that have been regularly meeting since 2019. Tonight, for me personally, is a very significant accomplishment of Newport Beach. I am thrilled to see this development come forward. I've been in this community for over 30 years, and it makes me very proud to be part of a city that is taking action using a national best practice of housing first and providing support services for our most vulnerable folks. I think this is a very exciting evening and the beginning of a new venture, and you're absolutely right when you talk about the differences between shelter. And I would just like you to look at the economies of this. You're spending about $3 million a year without housing people. This is a long-term investment. You won't have to keep investing in it. These people will be housed, and given our continuum of care in the county, you probably will have access to many more units as the lease-up happens with these buildings. I'm also proud to endorse the efforts of American Family Housing. I've worked with them over the years, and I think they will be a very strong partner. And I believe you heard earlier about from Chase Wickersham about the veteran housing. We've worked collaboratively on veteran housing. These are all solutions that we need in our city, and I'm very excited that we're moving ahead with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
My name is John Hummel, and I'm a homeless person. I know you've noticed the tents down the street. If there's anything that we can possibly do to help the homeless is to have, like, what they've done in San Diego. They opened up a parking lot somewhere where all the homeless go there under security. I think that it'd be a step forward. So we'd be able, because it's kind of hard to, like, carry all your stuff and apply for a job. You're not going to get hired. And if there's a place where I can leave my stuff and find a job and get on my feet and stop being a burden to the city, it'd be awesome. It's like, shelters are great, but they're full. What do we do, right? Open a parking lot somewhere, so it's under guard or whatever, and I think it might solve a little bit of a problem where there's, tents all over the city, which is nuts. Like, I think it would kind of help the community a little better not to see all that. And just put them in one spot, and maybe like a 3-month little program where they got to look for a job and move on. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other speakers on this item?
Mayor Blom, members of the council, my name is Jim Mosier. Reading the letter, which is attachment C to the staff report, it says, as you heard in the presentation, this is a 78-unit project in which Costa Mesa and Newport Beach, between them, will be guaranteed 28 of those units for Newport and Costa Mesa homeless. That leaves 50 other units, which I gather from the letter. The county will be determining who will be eligible to occupy those remaining 50 units. I assume some of them could be Newport Beach residents, some of them could be residents from anywhere in Orange County. So I assume from that there must be other similar permanent supportive housing facilities elsewhere in the county, which through a sort of reciprocal agreement, Newport Beach homeless would have a right to use. So I'm just curious to put this 78-unit project with its 50 floating units in perspective. Do we know what the current overall pool of permanent supportive housing is in Orange County, and how many units are there that the homeless can be assigned to by the county, and are they fully occupied at the moment? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this item? I'll bring it back up here real quick. Jim, that was a good question. I know that we are very underserved in that piece, and I'm going to start up here by saying something that probably never happens from the dais, but I want to thank the developers for bringing this forward. It's not an easy project. We've actually had a consultant underway in Newport looking for something like this in our city for a long, long time to try to find a piece of land that's actually equitable to this. And I do want to thank staff, because this negotiation, I think, Jim, you touched upon it briefly, but this isn't traditionally how these go. They aren't allocated out to independent cities. You don't get first right to certain beds. It's kind of a giant pool in the county. And due to our size and our homeless population, we've had a hard time acquiring some of those beds, which has been part of the issue we've been working through in the ad hoc piece, that, there is a priority that, and I know this is going to be striking to so many of you, Newport Beach is not always on the top of that list. And so this is something that's very important to us, and I really want to commend staff for even getting us to this point, because, these allocations are something that are in no other agreement in the county. So I think we've done very well there. We have any other comments up here? Wonderful. Let's go ahead and vote.
Need a motion, sir?
Yeah, I'll make the motion.
We have a second on this? Second by Councilmember Grant.
The motion carries unanimously, 7-0.
Excellent. Madam Clerk, please read the announcement for motions for reconsideration.
A motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council at either this meeting or the previous meeting may be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Are there any motions for reconsideration? Seeing none, we are adjourned.